Well, one thing to remember with these judges, and this is a problem with the system, is that they often work in the same, like in my town, effectively offices are in the same building as the prosecutors. And they're when they're not in their offices, they're just in court, and they have these cattle call hearings. And so you're sitting there with the prosecutor, they're coworkers for 5 hours straight as they go through this big stack of files. Defense attorneys, file in and out, and some of them get friendly. But the other issue that the judge can always fall back on is, in this case, Kyle would have been prejudiced if he was found guilty,
right?
But he wasn't prejudiced because the jury came to the right conclusion. So since there's no harm, it really doesn't look good to do it, to go back and revisit this issue. And that's why I was on the same page with you. Once he said, well, why don't we could put you guys on the stand under oath and get an expert in here. I'm like, yeah, do it, Judge. Dismiss the jury.
Take 10 minutes. 10 minutes.
Dismiss the jury for the day, for a week, whatever you need, however long you need to get an expert. Let's put these prosecutors on the stand. Let's get them under oath talking about how they emailed it to their personal Gmail account from their .gov account and then sent it when everything else was sent by Dropbox.
You
Let's find
give
explanations.
me 30 seconds on that laptop, and I can tell you if he did it or not. 30 seconds. You pull up the log files, and you can see what they did. Like that.
Yep.
The 10 minutes. 10 minutes to put him on the stand. Jury can wait, have a bag of Doritos while they're waiting. Give him some pop, give him some Pepsi.
Now, the other person that can do something with that is Kyle.
Yep.
Right. Putting aside the defamation stuff for
Really?
one instance, because it's basically that case I would take, if I were advising him, I would take that to federal court for a violation of his civil rights. Right. That's what happens when you have prosecutorial misconduct at the state or federal level. Your best bet is this whole thing that you see in the movies, like, I'm going to sue you for malicious prosecution. That doesn't really exist. It's like
really hard to prove.
Yeah, like one in a bazillion. But what you can do, suing for a violation of your civil rights is also very difficult, but it's very real in this case. This kid was charged with capital murder, and the prosecution doctored his evidence. That's pretty damn good. Now, what you'll have to prove in federal court is, hey man, you won your trial. Well, okay, my life's now screwed up because of this, because I was labeled a domestic terrorist falsely, a terrorist falsely, a racist falsely, member of the cake, whatever. He's got a good list to make that case.
Well, and he's got a bunch of news organizations dutifully reporting that he raised his gun and provoked the attack, and that the ruling is unjust because of that. So the news can kind of feed this in, and if he's got civil attorneys, or if he's got prospective civil attorneys who are thinking about things like this, hopefully they'll be capturing those things, and it's not going to go against the news companies, but it's going to say, this is the result of the state infringing on my client's civil rights. Wow. And here's the damage that was done, because now it's all over the major media that he provoked an attack that he never did.
Yeah. And real quick, sorry, Luke, you can quantify damages from a media sense in terms of PR rectification, or whatever the right word would be. Basically, if they dedicate 1 minute in defaming you, and you need to then pay 1 minute to counter that lie, it's very expensive.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. If you guys were Kyle's lawyers, what would be your first step? Who would you go after first in this entire matter? The prosecutors, the media, the state. How would you navigate that field?
Man.
Well, whatever he's going to do is going to be tough. Yeah. At the end of the day, he won. And we were talking about libel proof earlier. Part of the problem with the way we prosecute things is, if any opinion out there is based on the prosecution itself, based on what's in the complaint, people are able to formulate reasonable opinions based on that. Now, there are issues because a lot of the stuff that's being reported by some of these places never happened. For example, saying that Kyle shot 3 black men. That never happened. So that's not really a subject of the complaint. That's a way to attack. But for my money, I'm going after Krause and the county of Kenosha, and by extension, the state of Wisconsin, on the deprivation of civil rights. I think that's a great approach to take. And then for defamation, it's going to be based on individual news publications and what they've said. Wasn't it The Guardian the other day that said he shot 3 black guys?
The Independent.
The Independent. So that's going to be tough because that's in the UK. so that unless they have a U.S. office.
I believe they do have a U.S. office.
Okay, so you might be able to go after them, but you're really going to have to do very careful sifting, as we saw with Sandman, right? They had something like 57 statements and only 3 went through because almost all of them are opinion. Anything that says Kyle's a white supremacist, that he's a racist, that he was racially motivated, those are going to probably be opinion statements.
But they all said he crossed state lines with a gun. That's a statement of fact.
Right. So
Right.
that's a on its face a defamatory statement. Then the next thing, so Kyle's a little bit of a different. He's differently situated than almost anyone else would be. Right. The second he got arrested, this case went global. Right. So what they will argue is not against the defamation. They will argue that Kyle's a public figure.
Right.
So once you become a public figure, man, that defamation hurdle is huge. It is. In order to show damages, you have to satisfy this bar that's almost impossible to satisfy, even if you prove Kyle did not cross state lines with a gun. Kyle did not shoot 3 black men. Kyle is not a domestic terrorist. He's not a racist or a member of whatever. That's what I would recommend to Kyle and his crew is that I would write an open letter to the Department of Justice for them to initiate a federal civil rights investigation of the Kenosha County Prosecutor's Office and the police that investigated this case, because they have done that repeatedly in the past when there has been racial unrest and cities were burning. That's DOJ's biggest civil harm.
Yeah, I think the DOJ is more likely to go after Kyle.
No, I agree. I would just make this. I would do that
Right.
as part of a sort of a grander media strategy to be like, we asked the department to come in and do X. They said no. Now I have my rights under defamation and this and that and what other options he's choosing.
Do you guys think the Tucker Carlson documentary complicates this because it kind of paints him as a public figure?
Always. Look, whenever you're making statements, like you never hear me talking about my defamation cases except to say the pleadings are public, the instance is there, they lied about this meeting. That's all I say. If you give an interview on that, these lawyers are going to go in there and just tear you apart and use that in pleadings.
Yeah, because Tucker Carlson was filming a documentary on Kyle during the entire court proceeding. So,
which I agree with Kyle's defense lawyer.
Yeah.
I would have been like, no way.
No,
like,
thank
you're
you.
out. You cannot be here. But it's Kyle's choice at the end of the day.
Yeah, if it's Kyle's choice at the
Right,
end of the
yeah.
day. It might be someone else's choice. We don't really know. But I'm really glad you mentioned the media, the grander media strategy, because we're talking about how hard these cases are to win. That doesn't mean that a defamation case can't be valuable.
Yes.
Whether you win or not, Kyle's got this big dilemma. He's 18 years old and he's facing a life where his name will forever be tainted by what happened to him. And that's really unfair. But a defamation case can be a way to launch himself into, if he wants to embrace a media spotlight, he can become a spokesman against stuff. And a defamation case is a way to do that. Talk about the broken prosecution system. Talk about the fact that media can run roughshod over people, raise a lot of money doing it, get some sponsorships behind him, and become a media figure in the way that, some of the Parkland kids have done. They've taken that,
Right.
obviously different side of the political spectrum, but there is a way to make a career out of that when otherwise his career prospects got chopped down considerably from the average 18-year-old kid.
Well, let me ask you, if you're a public figure or involuntary public figure, I think is what they call this, the Covington kids, then the standard would be actual malice or gross negligence regarding the facts, right?
It's actual malice for any
intentional.
public figure. So,
But doesn't it also include gross negligence?
no,
That's different.
Really?
It's like actual malice, gross negligence.
Really? I thought even if you're a
Intensive,
public
like,
figure, that
culpability, like your intent. It's your intent.
So even though if you watch the trial for even 10 minutes, even though you could look at any of the filings, when they lie about, when they say he crossed state lines with a gun, right now, even though Dominic Black is currently in being prosecuted literally for giving the gun to Kyle in Wisconsin, that's not actionable.
So the actual malice standard from a journalistic perspective is that the journalist, and this is so frustrating, the journalistic outlet has to have a standard that they would typically do to conduct research, and they have to fail to meet that standard. That's the gross negligence I think you're talking about.
Okay. Right.
Is that that's how you show actual malice, is if they have a standard and then they fail to meet the research standards that they would otherwise do.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. I will tell you this. Then if Kyle Rittenhouse files a lawsuit, he absolutely should sue every single one of these outlets, because I will love it when they're like, our standard doesn't include using Google. We don't take 10 seconds to Google search any of these things. We just say them because we made them up.
But here's the kicker.
I'll be happy.
This is part of the reason I'm out there like raising all this money for people's defamation lawsuits. It's not just, yes, there's insane amount of value in bringing cases that have some merit.
Right.
But like you said, the biggest obstacle is money. So we'll take care of that. A fight with Kash. We'll pay for your lawyers and we'll review your case for free. But the other kicker in bringing defamation suits, if you bring them in the right state courts, it's that they have to divulge, once you get past this like mid-trial phase called summary judgment, the defense, has to disclose their sources to this plaintiff.
Really?
Why is that important? Because because what the judge has decided is, well, this case has enough fact issue to go to a jury. I, the judge, am out of ruling on that. Now here we go, discovery. And oh, by the way, you don't want to settle? You, the defense, like in Virginia state law, which is where all my cases are being brought, they have to, once we get past summary judgment, tell me who is the sources of your stories. And if they fail to do that, it's a default judgment.
What if they lie or
only
give you a few?
I guess they could. That's always possible. But I think that's why it's also worth
bringing.
So
if they say we will not reveal our sources, it's a default judgment?
You win.
Wow.
That's why Devin Nunes brings a lot of cases in Virginia, right?
Yeah, so Devin and I, dear friend, my former boss, he actually had a huge win in federal court, in the appellate court about a month ago. And we just bring cases to clear our names. You know, Devin's a little different. He's like the public figure of public figures after Russiagate. But he's doing it for the reasons we're talking about. Yes, he was defamed. Yes, they attacked his 90-year-old grandmother, right? And he realizes the bar's very high. But what happens is we're trying to correct the media. And the way you do that is you issue a monetary judgment against them. The other way you do that is you take them to federal court, get past summary judgment, and get their sources and tell the world.
Yeah, that
hurts.
That's one of the strategy. When someone lies against you, you have two options: money or the truth, or both. I mean, hopefully you get both. Yeah. But a lot of people will lose a defamation suit, but they'll lose the judgment. But people will get the option of seeing, oh, there's another side of this story. And those stories will consequently get a lot of media coverage because the initial story got a lot of media coverage. And that can have a ton of value in itself to rehabilitate, to at least tell, hey, at least the people who don't hate me, you know what? I didn't do any of this stuff that they're saying. They're lying about me. You know they're lying about me. And that can have a lot of value too.
The problem right now is if CNN came out and said, Rekieta hates chocolate ice cream.
It's true.
And no, but let's say it's not true. Let's say it's not true. Well, anybody who likes CNN, well, maybe you're not a good example. Let's say Trump. Let's say CNN comes out and says Trump hates chocolate ice cream according to those familiar with his thinking, as they, that ridiculous line they like to use. So, anybody who likes Trump is going to say they're lying. And then Trump will be like, it's not true. I love chocolate ice cream. And then anybody who hates Trump is going to believe CNN.
Right.
So it's like there's almost no point even bothering except for monetary damages.
It depends. It depends on the polarization of the figure. I mean, Trump is an extremely polarized figure, more than probably anyone else on earth, right? But for Devin Nunes, for someone who's maybe 75% of the way to Trump's level of polarization, I think there's value there. I really do.
Thanks for checking out this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. If you want to see the full show, come back to this channel, youtube.com/TimcastIRL, Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., where you can leave comments and super chat, and we actually will read your comments on the show. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and if you want exclusive members-only content, segments you can't get anywhere else, go to timcast.com, become a member, and we even have full bonus episodes. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.